Washington Journal continues.
Welcome back. We are joined now by Representative Rich McCormick. He's a Republican of Georgia, the 6th District there. He's also a member of the Armed Services and the Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman McCormick, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Just want to talk to you about that clip that we just heard during the break. What's your major concern with the U.S. Postal Service, and what do you want to see changed in the next administration?
Well, let's start with my locality, Georgia, which ranks dead last in the United States for on-time deliveries. I have personally had mail that didn't get delivered, certified mail to a $1 million home that couldn't even get to that address a month late. It returns back to me, says undeliverable. That's with the $6 payment for that one envelope. A tax return that came to me certified that took 4 months in a congressional inquiry to get 2 miles to me. Knowing several businesses that will not mail checks anymore with the U.S. Postal Service because they disappear. And that's massive. That's all over the United States. And I've heard about that from constituents all over. I'm sure many of the people who are listening right now have had Christmas cards that they sent out.
What do you think is the reason for that, though?
The organization in general. I mean, if you're trying to reorganize and your postal delivery on time goes down below 40%, into the 30s, you've done something wrong. When you're making hirings and it's just getting worse, you've done something wrong. When we have a worse delivery system than you had in the 1970s, before all this technology, when people were hand sorting things and delivering things with little Jeeps, and you did better than now, you have a problem. You have to take responsibility. You've been in that job for 4 years. And you can put your hands over your ears all you want, which I think a lot of bureaucrats do, whether they actually physically manifest that like he did yesterday, which actually made me smile because I was thinking, this is exactly what kids do when they want to hear somebody. La, 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 I don't want to hear this. And put their hands over their ears. I loved it. It was actually a physical manifestation so everybody could see this is what bureaucrats do when we complain about something. They don't want to hear it.
Well, let's talk about Congress's job, which is passing a budget. We've got a funding deadline, December 20th. It seems that both Democrats and Republicans are resigned to passing yet another CR because they will not be able to fund the government fully. And it's looking like a March deadline will be the next one. What are you hearing about what's going to actually happen? And do you think that that March deadline is a wise choice?
It's somewhat predictable. We could see this happening a long time ago. There's no way you're going to get all that done in a short period of time. But we do have a limited runway that we can get a couple reconciliations done. But when's the last time we had 2 reconciliations in 1 year in Congress? I think it was 1997, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long, long time. I don't know why we should have this idea that we're going to get everything done this year that we haven't done in almost 30 years. So I think we need to have a reality check and make sure that what we're doing makes sense, that we're going to be able to pass what we need to pass. Yesterday, there was a lot of debate in the Speaker's office over different factions inside of the Republican Party. Some people wanted to get one good win with H.R. 2. I personally think that the president, by executive order, can get H.R. 2 accomplished almost by himself. I want to put that in a bigger bill to sweeten the deal so we can actually get some real good tax packages done, and we can make sure we extend the tax benefits for businesses to be worldwide competitive, that we don't increase the corporate tax rate and make us non-competitive, that we nail down the R&D expense tax breaks that people need to be competitive on the world scale, because this is a world market. And if we don't do it right, we are going to falter in our competition.
So you want to do the border and tax cuts at the same time?
I do.
And you think that that's going to work given the very small majority that the Republicans have?
That's right. You have to try
House.
to figure a way to make everybody happy to get this bill across the finish line. Maybe grab a couple moderate Democrats, but we need to make sure that all parts of that very small majority have the votes to get this across the line. That means everybody has to have something they're voting for in that bill.
I want to ask you about an interview you did with Fox News earlier this month. You were asked about possible cuts to entitlement programs, and this is what you said, quote, "We're going to have some hard decisions. We got to bring the Democrats in to talk about Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. There's hundreds of billions of dollars to be saved, and we know how to do it. We just have to have the stomach to actually take those challenges on." Can you elaborate on that?
Sure can. So if you look at the non-discretionary budget, what most people call mandatory spending, it consumes over 3/4 of our budget, and it's growing every year. We're paying $1 trillion in interest every year. We have a $35 trillion debt. If we continue to expand our debt at this rate, we'll lose the currency standard of the world. Right now, since Bretton Woods in, I think, 1972, we've been the world standard, the gold standard of currency. Everybody uses our currency to base everybody's currency on. If we continue down this road, we'll lose that standard. We'll lose our place in history. If right now we bring in about 4.5 trillion in revenue, but we spend about 7, that's a 30% deficit every year. Every year, 30% deficit. If you cut the entire non-discretionary spending, including the military, by the way, which makes about 15% of our spending per year, if you cut the entire discretionary budget, you still haven't gotten to equal. You're just spending on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. You're done. And this is the problem. People have to have a realistic look at how we're going to survive as a nation. We keep on cutting it. This is the most compassionate thing we can do. If we don't do something to tweak Social Security, I'm just talking about small tweaks, but we will have an automatic cut within 10 years of 21%. That's not going to be voted on. That's just going to happen. I'm trying to save Social Security from bankruptcy. Same thing with Medicare, by the way. An 11% cut will happen in about a decade if we don't do something to shore it up. And we can't just say we're just going to print more money off, because right now, if we spent that entire $4.5 trillion of income per year of revenue, we would take over 7 years to pay off the debt without any interest payments and without any other budget. No anything.
Congressman, what kind of tweaks would you make to Social Security benefits and Medicare benefits? Be more specific.
Sure. So there's actually some bills out there that have small tweaks that I know that moderate Democrats already bought into. In other words, if everybody who's close, you don't touch. Okay, you bought into the system, you have a promise, we're not going to touch that. But incrementally, over time, you extend the age for people who are young right now.
Young meaning what? Define that.
That's why we're going to have to debate. What is young? Is it 40? Is it 30? I don't know. But somebody who's not close to Social Security, at least a decade away, who can adjust their time schedule, that helps, because right now we've been living longer, but we still start Social Security at the same age. But people are working longer too. We need to adjust to make this survive for everybody, for people who maybe come to Social Security earlier, who have problems, health problems and stuff like that. We need to have that ready. If we don't, we're not being judicious in the way we're preparing for the future. We can also attack with the way we tax, the way we benefit, just small tweaks, but things that people can prepare for now, rather than in 10 years saying, well, we have no choice, we just got to push this through, and now we have a bad solution. Let's tweak it a little bit so we can extend it for another 20 years.
We'll take your calls for Congressman Rich McCormick of Georgia. On our lines, 202-748-8001 is for Republicans, 202-748-8000 for Democrats, and independents are on 202-748-8002. I want to ask you about Mr. Trump's nominee for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. Obviously, you've served for many years in the Marine Corps and the Navy, and have been in combat zones. So I want to ask you specifically about him. I believe you guys met. He met with some other House members. How did that go, and what are your thoughts on him?
It was really a positive meeting. He met with the RC, the largest body of Republicans, about 170 members. Not everybody was there, but we also had several senators in his support there who had spoken to him, who had looked into the accusations. He did a really good job of shoring up against those accusations, which are anonymous, which nobody at Fox will say anything. They're like, I don't know what I don't know what they're talking about when they talk about these anonymous complaints. He doesn't know what it's talking about. His wife doesn't know what's going on. They're all kind of like, just show me who it is, and let's address it, because I don't know who it is. And so,
you're talking about the allegations of sexual assault? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so,
but he paid a settlement, so he does know who it is.
No, he didn't know who it is, and he's saying to us, it's an empty allegation of an anonymous tip. That's not the same thing. And so that's why I heard the same thing as you, and I had my concerns. But that's not what we were told in conference. We were told, no, these are anonymous tips. We don't know where they came from.
I want to ask you about the drinking. He has said that he's pledged to not touch alcohol if he becomes Secretary of Defense. What are your thoughts on that as a medical doctor?
If somebody doesn't want to drink, I think that's fine. I don't know how much he drinks normally. I have no idea. He was very sober and alert and interactive when he was in front of us. All I can do is judge you by what I see and what I hear. He's an intelligent guy, well-educated guy. He's a guy who's kicked in doors and done combat missions himself. He understands what the average soldier needs. Is he an expert at contracting? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I took him aside after our conference and said, really, what doesn't matter how masculine you are, how much DEI you get out of the military. if you don't have the most survivable equipment, you don't have the stuff that's going to develop the most lethality downrange, we're in trouble. The most masculine soldier in the world is not going to survive the next battle. How are you at contracting? How are you going to make this contracting, which is really messed up, by the way, right now? We are really inefficient. We're backlogged. We have this up and down system that makes even the defense contractors very uneasy and very inefficient. How are you going to fix that? And he basically said, look, there's certain things I know, there's certain things I don't. I know exactly who to hire to help me do those processes. They're very, very much bean counting and very much into the minutia. He said, but I have a good overview and I have a bunch of experts, just like Reagan. Reagan wasn't an expert on everything, but he knew the right people to hire onto his cabinet to get the job done.
Reagan was a governor, so Mr. Hegseth has been criticized for never really leading a large organization. And
Sure.
as you know, the Defense Department is the largest organization. It's about 3 million people. What are your thoughts on his management experience?
Well, Reagan was a great governor, but he was also never in the Defense Department. He never served in the military. Yet he was one of our best commander-in-chiefs in my lifetime. I think even like Trump, for example, I thought we did really well in Afghanistan while Trump was president. That strength equaling peace thing really means something to me. When you see an administration that comes in and reeks of weakness, it invites war. This is a guy who understands that we need to be lethal, we need to be strong, we need to be efficient. He's very smart. He's got the full support of the president-elect, and he's got the full support of all the senators I've talked to, except for maybe a couple people that are on the fence. But once again, you're never going to have a nominee who's going to excite everybody.
Let's talk to callers and start with Rose, a Republican in Thompson's Station, Tennessee. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a compliment and a suggestion. First of all, I like how you handled that postmaster. The only opinion that really matters is ours. Government workers have forgotten they work for us. They cover their ears. They won't take calls. They refuse to read 500-page bills. So write down my site, sir, stolenelectionnovella.com. I uncovered dirt on all of them. News without the Orwellian newspeak. When the American people finally figure out that their government loathes them so much they plan democide by virus and vaccine by 90%, I think the Oval Office will remain empty.
All right, let's get a response to that, Rose. Go ahead, Congressman.
I personally could not get any accountability from the postmaster, as well as the post office I actually had local interactions with. Went down there and said, hey, can I get an answer why my letter can't be delivered? A month and a half later, it came back to me, and they couldn't give me any answers. They wouldn't give me my money back either, by the way. I said, can I leave a phone number here? I'm actually a congressman locally. I would love to help him solve this problem. Never got a phone call back. Didn't have time to see me then, and never could. That's your congressman. Locally, couldn't even talk to me. Until the government becomes accountable, until it answers to the people, you have a government that doesn't understand its role. We have, by Constitution, a government designed to be inefficient on purpose. So it never becomes so powerful that it's more powerful than the people. We should always have a government that serves the people, not rules over them. And that's the problem right now with the way the government looks at itself.
And let's talk to Ronald in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning. The postmaster, they do a good service. All right. You're a whiner. You have
no personal attacks, Ronald. But
okay.
What did you want to say about the post office?
I pay for a post office box. I don't get delivery to my house. Okay? It costs me $160 a year for a 3x5 box. You're complaining about getting delivery, and you don't even have to pay for it. It's free to you. It's a service. It's an entitlement, just like your Social Security you're wanting to cut.
What do you mean that mail delivery is free, Ronald?
What do you mean?
Every home in the United States gets delivered mail at their house. They do not have to pay $160 a year to have it delivered there. I have to if you have a personal box. But I can't get mail to my area because it's in a restricted area. They don't allow deliveries of any type. All right, so I have to have a mailbox. And there's places that people that have mailbox because they want delivery. All right, until
all right,
you have
Ronald.
to pay.
So this isn't about your instance. This is about a mail delivery system that's worse than the 1970s. And quite frankly, it's not free. When I paid $6 for one certified letter that didn't get delivered, that's not free. Nobody gets mail delivered for free if it's personal. It just doesn't happen. That's an inaccurate statement. I understand you have special circumstance, which means that you have specific expense. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to a post office that was equally criticized, by the way, by Democrats and Republicans alike. Matter of fact, I would say the Democrats were maybe even harder on him than the Republicans were. This is a bipartisan issue of the people.
Larry in Columbus, Ohio, independent line.
Yes, hello, and thank you so much for taking my call. I wanted to ask a couple questions here based upon the members of the current government. The U.S. was founded by Freemasons. How many members of the current U.S. government, percentage-wise, do you think are in a secret society like the Freemasons? And question number two, how can we trust people in government if they pledged allegiance to a group of unknowns who cannot be held accountable? And third question, are you yourself in a secret society or are you a Freemason?
So if it's secret, I guess I wouldn't know about it, so I don't know. And I'm sure if I asked around, I probably still wouldn't know because it's still secret. And quite frankly, I don't know every member in Congress. There's 435 of us. I'm real close friends with probably about 20 of them. I myself am a part of an organization called the United States Marine Corps, which is not so secret. That's about all I have to offer. I'm a guy who's very open book.
John in Halesville, Texas, Republican. Hallsville. Sorry.
Good morning, Congressman.
Morning.
I have some advice I want to say, and it's about 3 or 4 points. You want to solve immigration? You need to start putting employers in prison. They knowingly hire them. They're tax cheats because they don't pay the federal income tax on those employees, and everybody knows it goes on. So that's one thing, and you have to use the word must, not may, because we know what may means. That'll never happen. But getting to the budget part, child tax credit, limit it to one child. There's two. I don't believe in it because I believe you have kids because you love them, not because the government's going to give you something for them. Everybody looks forward to tax season. Number 2, raise the cap on the Social Security tax. That'll bring a whole lot of revenue in. And if you can do those 2 things, here's the big one, Medicaid. How many senior citizens are out there that pay for their Medicare out of their Social Security check? Bunch of them. Well, it's high time that the people on Medicaid don't get a free ride on the taxpayer's dime. They need to pay a premium just like those on Social Security Medicare. If we can do just starting there, that would raise a whole lot of money. And I just want to thank you, Congressman, and you and your family have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Well, first of all, Merry Christmas. Thank you for those kind wishes. When it comes to Medicaid specifically, there's about $413 billion we can save on just eliminating the fraud that comes with the Affordable Care Act when we don't have to verify our income. That's fraud. $413 billion, almost $500 billion. There is tons of pork barrel spending out there that we know we can get rid of. I have a bill right now lined up. I think we're going to get through some really good bills to clean up this mess of waste, fraud, and abuse. I like your ideas. Some will have more merit than others. But you know, it's funny. I asked Elon Musk very specifically recently because he made a statement when I was in Wyoming with him a couple of years back before he was political. He said, somebody asked him, what's your next big idea? Now, when you ask Elon Musk, what's your next big idea, people lean in and will listen. He said, I have a million ideas. I can't go to sleep at night because I have so many ideas in my head. But the whole point is not how many ideas you have, but what can you actually execute? What can you get done? And really, we can have, everybody in Congress has ideas. We have more health care bills than we have congressmen. We have 127 health care bills just from the Doctors Caucus, and there's only about 14 doctors in Congress, 127 bills. When you read through them, what ones can we actually get done? What can we get across the finish line? What can we get past the Congress, the Senate, reconciliation, and the president's desk and actually make into law? And that's why some of these ideas have more merit to them than others. And if you can't get a majority to vote for them, it could still be a great idea and never make it through.
We have a question for you on X, asking if you agree with Israel grabbing Syrian land.
So I actually was surprised when I heard that myself. As a guy who's been to Israel, who's been over in that area, never been into Syria before, but I will say that Syria is also got land basically grabbed by Russia and by Turkey and by other joint. They're not the only ones. I don't know why we're focused just on Israel. Israel is trying to protect themselves from Hamas taking that land and using it as a base to launch attacks into Israel. But they're not the only ones who have land over there, that have interest in the land over there. There's Turkish-controlled areas over there. We don't talk about that. There's actually, I think, at least 3 or 4 nations that have also grabbed land because they're concerned about who's in those areas and what they're going to be doing for it. So it's not just Israel. Israel has probably got the most at stake for a bordering nation that wants to do harm to them with those terrorists there. So I understand why they do it. But quite frankly, they're an independent nation just like all those other countries that are doing similar things.
And this is Peggy in Centralia, Washington, Democrat.
Yes, hello, good morning. Yeah, I noticed that you told the Postmaster General DeJoy that the post office was failing under his control, when actually it was failing before he took control. I think he's doing a pretty good job considering. So I suggest that, seeing how this Congress has been the biggest do-nothing Congress probably in history, maybe pull the splinter out of your own eye before you try to pull it out of someone else's eye.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when it comes to the postmaster, he had 4 years. Yeah, he had problems before that. He had 4 years, though. I expect you could say it went way down, then went back up again. But the inefficiencies I'm witnessing, the theft that we know is out there that hasn't been addressed. 4 years is what you get. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm in the military. If you have 4 years and you're failing as a commanding officer, you're going to be relieved. I'm sorry. Matter of fact, it's going to be about 1 year. If you're a CEO in a business and you don't turn it around in 4 years, you're fired. I guarantee it. That's the way it works. And guess what? If I don't do my job, if I'm a do-nothing congressman, you're going to fire me too. I guarantee it. Now, I'm top 10 in legislation passed. And I'll say this Congress passed a lot of bills. The problem is the do-nothing was the Senate, run by Democrats, I might add, who never, ever took our bills and made them whole. That didn't compromise on us, didn't let them die in the Senate over and over again. We passed H.R. 1 on energy, H.R. 2 on the border, and then they tried to spin it and say Congress wouldn't do anything about it. We did do things. The Senate wouldn't come to the table. It was the do-nothing Senate. Let's get it straight. The do-nothing Senate is what stopped us from getting things done.
Let's go to Nashville, Tennessee, Independent Line. Richard, you're next.
Good morning. I tell you what, I woke up to a great morning. And Mr. McCormick, you're right down the road from me in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been in Rossville, Georgia, and Tennessee, and I thank you for what you're saying this morning. Stand your ground. Here's what I'd like to say to the American people, especially the mothers out there and the fathers, but primarily the mothers. If we don't get our military under control, and we just had an anniversary of Pearl Harbor, a lot of people have forgotten 9/11, and if you don't think they're not coming for us, you got to be living in a cave somewhere. So if you want to send your children to fight in a foreign war again, like World War II or Vietnam, and believe me, I grew up in Vietnam, you go ahead and you keep voting the way you're voting, and you're going to have every child in this country fighting in the coming wars. And they're going to come back. Our women, it breaks my heart when I see people like Joey Jones on Fox News with no legs, other people that come through here. So anybody that joins the military, they're doing it for service. And what gets me is when you look at rural America, how all the jobs, the textile factories, everything has gone overseas for cheap labor. What we've done essentially is told the rural kids, if you can't grow up on a farm and make it, then you're going to have to go to the city to find a job. And we know what the city's jobs are. They're mainly retail jobs that don't pay anything. And then you're going to end up having to join the military just to make a living. And then we have foreigners coming in this country illegally that are getting all the benefits that the taxpayers.
Richard, we're running low on time, so I want to get an answer for you.
So when it comes to recruiting for the military, notice the Marines are the only ones making the recruiting goals. I was a Marine for 16 years. Matter of fact, the poster boy for the Marine Corps back in the chessboard commercial in the early 90s. And I'll tell you what people are drawn to the military for is service. They want to be warriors. They want to defend their country. They're patriots. Those services that say they're going to sell something else don't make their mark. And quite frankly, we have about 70% of the youth that don't even qualify to serve in the military anymore, which is egregious. And that's on us as parents, not preparing our kids physically, mentally, emotionally for service of their country. That's a weakness that we all need to address. And you're right, we have some very dangerous places in the world right now, whether it be Ukraine, the Middle East, with Israel, or even Taiwan. And we're on parity with China now. They're building ships faster than us. They have 50 deep water ports, and we have 2 that could build our largest aircraft for battle, our largest ship for battle. We have, when you combine their paramilitary with their military spending, they're on parity with us, and we have to be very careful we don't fall behind them because of our inefficient contracting.
regarding the military, this is Fox News reporting that a conservative group compiles a list of woke senior officers they want Pete Hegseth to fire. That group is called the American Accountability Foundation, and it says that the woke takeover of the military is a major threat to our national security. Do you agree with that?
In many ways, I do. My last year, and this is when during Trump's administration, actually, my last year in the military in 2017, I had several lectures on how to treat transgenders in the military. Now, we didn't even have transgenders in the military at the time. I'm a physician. What I need to know, are you a male or a female? Because when you come see me, I need to know if you're having an ovarian torsion or is it testicular torsion. If I miss something, I get sued and you get harmed. I just need to know who you are. I'm going to treat everybody with respect. We spent so much time on DEI-type policies that were instituted not by Trump, the commander-in-chief, but by woke, bureaucratic acting, political acting officers in the services and secretaries that had been placed there by President Obama, and we lost our mission. We lost our focus. And I think if we're not thinking like warriors, we're preparing for the next battle to be lost. We're strategically preparing to lose the war.
In this case, it's a list of 20 general officers or senior admirals. It says that they excessively focused on DEI and other similar left-wing initiatives. 8 of those 20 are women. And it says those on the list in many cases seem to be targeted for public comments they made either in interviews or at events on diversity, and in some cases for retweeting posts that promote diversity. Do you agree that they should be fired?
I think they should be reviewed for sure. And if they're not focused on the winning of a war, which is the only thing that a person who's in command of troops should be concerned with, preparing. Now, if you're an administrative, if you're a commandant, you prepare them for war. If you're a commander of a SINC, like CENTCOM or AFRICOM, you better be ready to win that next war. If your focus is somewhere else, shame on you, goodbye. I need warriors.
Do you believe diversity in the military helps the United States win wars?
Absolutely. But guess what? It's just kind of like when I was talking to Sergeant Major of the Army at a party. And I said, if you guys keep on trying to recruit using DEI-type techniques, you're going to lose your Army recruiting. And he said, sir, you don't understand. Those Marines, when they're going home from 8th and I, right down the street here, they're getting pulled over. If they're not in uniform, they're getting pulled over by the police. Oh, I said, well, wait a minute. Are those military police? No, sir. So they're civilian police? Yes, sir. Do you have the same problem in the military police? No, sir. So why are you focused on in the military? This is a civilian problem. We in the military don't have that problem because you're my brother. You're different. We're all shades of green. I don't care if you're black or white or Hispanic or whatever. We're all shades of green. We all bleed red. That's what makes the military magic. When you focus on our differences instead of what unites us, you got a problem. And that's what these problems have manifested in these people that divide us, not unite us.
Representative Rich McCormick, a Republic of Georgia's 6th District, thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.